Hello, everyone. This is Adam with PsychedelicInvest.com. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful end to your week. In today's episode of Weekly Extractions, we're just going to be going over some of the highlights coming out of the psychedelic sector this week. I will give you some of my thoughts on them, and that will be the episode. I hope you guys are ready for this because we're just jumping right into things. All right, guys, so leading things off here, we have Mindset Pharma receives allowance for U.S. patent application covering composition of matter for its lead psychedelic therapeutic candidate, MSP-1014, and additional family 1 tryptamine prodrug candidates. So why is this significant? MSP-1014 is isoprosin glutarate. And if you guys are familiar with 4-OH-DIPT, it's essentially the same thing. And Reunion Neuroscience filed for a patent regarding 4-OH-DIPT relatively recently. So what does this mean for Reunion Neuroscience now that this was allowed for Mindset? Essentially, Reunion could spend money on getting the grant reviewed. It depends how they want to take this. We'll see what happens. But right now, it doesn't bode well for Reunion Neuroscience. We'll see how they go about it. But this in general, I thought this was a really interesting psychedelic formulation because of how short acting it is. So compared to something like psilocybin, which can be upwards of, like, let's say 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours, anywhere there. But if we're talking just peak, it would be much shorter. But this, the behind 4-OH-DIPT, it's about, let's say, in the 3-hour range. So that's like a significant difference. And I think that any company that holds the IP to this specific formulation, I think it is... there's a lot of potential there because in regards to the way clinics are doing things and in regards to how patients would be able to fit this into their daily lives, the shorter acting psychedelic, the better. If it can also yield the therapeutic benefits that are on par with, let's say, the longer acting psychedelic, that remains to be seen. I have personal experience with not 4-OH-DIPT, but it's 4-HO-DIPT. They're similar to each other, and I can say that it was a very, very good experience. It was incredibly short-acting compared to something like psilocybin, and it was very, very, in terms of the psychedelic experience, it was extremely, extremely similar to psilocybin. But we'll see what happens here. I think this is, we're getting our taste of, like, the patent wars that are starting to brew here. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what Reunion Neuroscience does in response to this. But with all that said, congrats to Mindset Pharma. I think this is a great patent to hold. All right, guys, and up next we have Ceruvia Life Sciences. So you have heard me speak about Ceruvia Life Sciences before on this channel, but it was mostly due to the connections to MindMed. Today we will not be going into any of that. We're just going to be focusing on Ceruvia Life Sciences and BOL-148, which is 2-Bromo LSD. So what's going on with BOL-148? So essentially they announced the first participant dosed in their phase 1 clinical trial. So now, what is the claim behind BOL-148? It's that it produces no hallucination or no psychedelic effect, but you get the therapeutic benefits of LSD. So that's pretty significant in my opinion. And obviously, this is very interesting because the indications they're looking at it for is cluster migraines. And for anyone who's had cluster migraines or migraines in general, you do not want, like, no one. I know that psilocybin has been looked at for kind of stopping the cycle of a cluster migraine and snapping people out of that, the cycle. But having a non-hallucinogenic formulation of LSD is perfect for that specific indication. And that's what's being looked at here. Now, what makes BOL-148 even more interesting is that, so I was doing some reading, and what I came across is that it appears that pre-treatment with 2-Bromo LSD for 2 days before taking LSD prevents psychoactive effects occurring. So, meaning that somebody can pre-treat with 2-Bromo LSD and then take LSD at some point, and it should prevent them from receiving any type of any type of the psychedelic effects. You'll just get the therapeutic effects of the LSD. Now, the mechanism of action here, in terms of what is being claimed of how that works, is that by basically pre-treating with 2-bromo LSD, you can saturate the 5-HT2AR receptor, which then antagonizes LSD binding once administered. So this is really, really interesting. And I know Saruvia did not mention this here, but I felt the need to mention this because I find this very, very interesting, because in terms of the applications for BOL-148, in terms and how you can kind of look at BOL-148 for other indications, if it can completely nullify, if pre-treating with BOL-148 can nullify the psychedelic effects of traditional LSD 25, it's that there's something very interesting there. And this seems like a very promising drug candidate to have. Now, with that said, the indication that they're looking at it for is for migraines and cluster headaches. LSD and psilocybin have shown efficacy in regards to being able to treat those indications. And now we have this formulation that only produced psychedelic effects in very, very, there were some occurrences of people receiving psychedelic effects from 2-bromo LSD or BOL-148, but it was very, very, very rare. So I had to mention that, but it really does seem that this is a non-hallucinogenic form of LSD, and it's going to be interesting to follow this trial. Very exciting, actually. In the past, when I had been looking into BOL-148, I didn't realize the kind of the scope of this formulation, and now I'm starting to get a pretty good idea of it. It seems like that Saruvia might actually have something very, very interesting here. So definitely a trial that's worth following. All right, guys, and lastly, we have ARK Investments. This screenshot is courtesy of Control Plus Z. Thank you, sir. Basically, atai. Basically, Cathie Wood has been selling out of her atai position and moving that over into Compass. Not necessarily moving that over to Compass, but we see her continually. If we're just looking at the psychedelic sector, she continues to buy Compass Pathways, and she's selling out of atai. So come to the conclusions you want. But essentially, I understand this move. Atai had two trials. Atai had the PCN-101 and the KUR-101, which which did not blow anyone away. And I think that she realized that the time horizon in regards to atai is going to be pushed further back a little bit. She could have just jumped into atai just for the PCN-101 results. We're really not sure how ARK went about kind of deciding to go into atai. But it could have been they were just waiting out to see what happens with PCN-101. PCN-101 did not show the results did not show the significant results that many were anticipating. I think that there was an overreaction in regards to PCN-101, but in regards to just generally, like if you were waiting for the PCN-101 catalyst, it did not come. If anything, the stock price ended up getting hurt. I think we fell like 30%. But yeah, so that happened. And I can see her now she's moving her money into Compass Pathways. That makes sense. Compass Pathways is in a phase 3 for their psilocybin, their polymorph of psilocybin. And it's very likely that Compass has a catalyst that will likely move the needle in the short term to midterm. Way before atai does. But I will say this. It is possible that atai makes some moves, and we do get and investors in atai do get something. I'm not sure in what form that would take shape. Would there be an M&A on the horizon for atai? I'm not sure. But I find it hard to believe that atai is just going to sit put generally. And I think they do have more up their sleeve. So I'm excited to hear what's going to be coming out of atai moving forward. And obviously I think everyone in the psychedelic sector is closely following this Compass phase 3 trial right now. And regarding Cathie, she caught a lot of the bottom in regards to selling some of her ARK investment. That does happen, but at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with Cathie Wood and her ETF. I'm not a fan of Cathie, but I'm also I don't dislike her in any way. I think that she's made some great picks over time. I think that she's also made some really like questionable picks. I do appreciate that she has started looking into the psychedelic sector though. So I will never like anyone with kind of a name in investing who's looking at psychedelics and shining that light here. I appreciate that. So it doesn't hurt to have her in the space at all. And we'll see what happens with Compass, Atai, and ARK investments in general. That was today's episode of Weekly Extractions. This was the weekly roundup. Stay tuned for next episode, and I will see you guys. My name is Adam Tabero. My email is thegreatwavewithin@gmail.com. TheGreatWavewithin@gmail.com. Reach out to me if you work for any of these companies and you want to come on my show and just talk psychedelics. Reach out to me if you want to talk investing in psychedelics in general. And yeah, I'm always around to chat. Have a nice weekend, everyone.